So you can find me on Rumble and on Locals with that, and also News with Tom numbers. So I'm happy to say I've got my two mates here. I've got Matt Tissier, former Southampton and England legend, and also Rickie Lambert, former Southampton, Liverpool and England legend also. And we were going to have another England and Liverpool legend. I'll just mention it. I think it's all right to say. So we were going to have, well, I don't know for sure. I was talking to John Barnes, and who Rickie and Matt know. But I talked about the numbers. And anyway, in numbers, John, if you're watching, if you do the numbers A through to Z, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, John Barnes comes to 106, which comes to red pilling, but it also comes to footballer. So if you're watching, John, maybe in the future we'll see you, buddy, and I hope you're well. So Matt, Rickie, how are you? And we've also got a substitute. So I don't think I'd ever say this, but we've got Mr. Mark Attwood coming on as a sub for John Barnes. So he'll be on in a few moments. So Matt, Rickie, how are you, buddies?
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, champion, can't complain.
Good, good to be good to see my two good friends again. So yeah, no, very good.
Rickie and Matt, I've got a comment on both on your appearances. So Rickie, you're looking devilishly handsome with your beard. You look like Howard from Take That. It's like you could be like the handsome version of Howard. You could be, and I've got the beard, and I'm tanned as well now. And Matt's super tanned as well because he's been out in New York. So I thought I'd compliment both of you on how good you're looking. So
I take it. Thank you.
Take it. There you go. Take it. Take that. Yeah, you take that. No pun intended. Yeah. Matt, tell us how was your golf? How many games did you play? What was it like out there?
I flew out to New York last Monday, played golf Tuesday, twice on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and flew back Friday night. Got back into Gatwick Saturday morning, drove straight to my daughter's netball tournament. It was about 20 minutes from Gatwick, which was quite convenient. And yeah, got back here and I've got back out on the golf course. Played on Monday a bit better, and then I played Wentworth yesterday in a charity day. Probably the best I've played golf for quite some time. Shot like 5 over par around Wentworth, so I was quite pleased with that.
Wow,
Wentworth. I know my buddy Roy Cox is a member of Wentworth. I don't know if you know Roy, Matt, but he's a regular there, and I haven't been there for years. But it's a lovely place, Wentworth. Yeah,
certainly is. Was that a little glimpse of Mark Attwood we got there?
There he is. We've got Mark Attwood. So Mark,
hello.
Before I unleash you upon the show, I was just saying that I was talking to John Barnes, and he may have joined us for the show, but he's not here today, but maybe in the future. But I did the numbers on John Barnes. John Barnes is 106, footballer is 106, and red pilling is 106. But I was just saying to the boys, I didn't think I'd ever get to say this in this beautiful, wacky world we're in, but Mark Attwood is coming on as a substitute for John Barnes. So welcome to the show, mate.
That's the funniest line you've ever done, Tom. That's brilliant.
Well, it is today. Come on, I'm a man of many pearls of wisdom. You should have seen the one when I compared Rickie to Howard from Take That. And then I said, you're the better looking version of Howard. And he went, I'll take it. And I said, take that. So that was just a minute ago.
Oh, that's you're on fire today, mate. I've just woken up and had to watch I've got 13-year-old twins. It's their birthday today, and I just had to watch my poor son's crestfallen face as the watch that I got him for his birthday is too big for him.
So you just woken up. What do you sleep?
Well, not just woken up. I've just had to do birthday stuff with the boys.
Matt, it's a rough life for us truthers. Me and Mark have been right through the hedges the last few weeks.
Last few fucking years. Anyway, Matt Tissier, the last time I saw him, he had his boot at my ass in Manchester, which I framed. I framed those jeans. Cheers.
How are you? You all right, mate?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, champion.
Nice to meet you, Rickie.
This is Rickie.
Yeah.
Rickie found out about you last night and just thought your tweet was incredible. I knew he'd love it because, well, I'll let him say hello to you and just thank you for the tweet. We're going on about it.
No, Mark, it's lovely to meet you, mate. And like Tom's just said, he sent me the tweet that you put out last night. I thought it was amazing. I think you summed up exactly what's going on and what the ones who are awake, what we all know, and it's trying to get the message across. And I thought the way you did it, mate, was superb. So well done, well done.
Thank you very much, Rickie. I appreciate that. It's weird because I'm trying to condense everything into a tweet. is a real skill that I've not really mastered yet, because a lot of people say, oh, there's nothing new here. But I'm like, well, I just keep getting the message that there's a lot of people just waking up that don't know any of this, and they need it in a bite-sized soundbite kind of thing. And that means that sometimes you have to use shorthand. For example, somebody just left a message saying, you're wrong about the Freemasons. Yeah, but I just want to steer them that way, because I'm not saying that all Freemasons are bad, but I'm saying that, you know, there are deeply dark forces at work all across the planet, and we're all around us, and most of us didn't even know it for most of our lives. That's what I'm trying to get across, so that they can start doing their own research.
I make you spot on that they are the gatekeepers. They are the gatekeepers, and either we're going to have to make a decision: are they on our side or are they not?
Yeah, well, you know, being so secret is a major problem, and it's like JFK said in, I think it was 62, that secret societies should be repugnant in any kind of democracy, and that's the big issue that we've got. That all of our leaders are connected; they're all in some kind of club. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club, and you and me ain't in it. And we, you know, we got to. It's just time to It's just time to stop being afraid, Rickie. So I think, you know, people like you, Matt, you know, me and Tom are nobodies. You guys have got a profile, and you can have a massive influence on people, and it's time to tell everybody, I think, that to stop being afraid, you know, because the fear of ridicule is the thing that holds us down. Fear and shame are the things that hold us back. Guilt and shame, and a lot of that guilt and shame comes from the demon-infested prison that we all got born into, that made a lot of people do and say things that maybe they look back and they're like, well, it kind of holds people into place. But it's time to just let go of that. It's a time of forgiveness for everybody, including the bad guys, actually, because we've got to be united going forward. Either the human race is going to survive this or it isn't. And at the moment, it's not looking good. But I do believe in the hero's journey, and I think we're in the hero's journey. And if anybody follows the hero's journey, go and read Joseph Campbell's book in 1936, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, where he dissected every story that resonates in history, has the same pattern, known as the hero's journey. And I think we're in the final act. And if you remember Star Wars, which follows the hero's journey perfectly, it looks, yeah, there he is. Oh, it's Klaus Schweinju. Nice.
It's Anakin. Dr. Light.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the final act of Star Wars, when everything looks, you know, Luke somehow gets that thing inside the Death Star, and that's what I think is going to happen, basically.
Yeah.
I think the fear thing is really important, because not being scared is critical to how your brain works. Because when you're in a state of fear, you actually lose the ability to think critically, and that's what a lot of people have lost over the last few years. So I think the message that to not be scared is a really, really important one, so people can actually think clearly and think logically, and just not lose their shit, basically.
So what would you say, Matt, in terms of, because one of the things about you guys, you know, you got out in front of crowds of 50,000 people or whatever, and managed to put in performances, national TV interviews, that kind of thing, international stages. Most people can't imagine being in those situations. Have you got any tools or, you know, suggestions for people? And Tom might have already asked you this, but for getting over that fear, because I'm talking about grounding and meditation and what you eat and that kind of thing. But have you got anything, any tips?
It's difficult for me, because I never really had an issue with kind of nerves and stuff and being afraid and things. That's why I was a penalty taker. Rickie's probably the same, you know. If you've got any doubts, you don't want to become a penalty taker, because, you know, putting yourself in that situation is, you know, it's stressful. There's a lot of expectations on you, and so I was quite lucky, I guess, that I had a mindset that kind of was a bit of a I don't really give a shit mindset, is what it basically boils down to. I don't get scared easily.
Just like now, Matt.
Yeah. Unless you put me in a plane with a parachute on and go, right, jump out there, then
Let's do it. I've done that. Let's do it.
Then shit in my pants. But apart from that, you know, I don't get scared by situations. I don't allow people to hold power over me just because they're in a position of authority. I don't, you know, unless they've gained my trust in some way, then I won't allow them to have that power over me.
Do you know what you said, Matt, which I loved, is that you was just a normal person getting on with your daily life, not giving a shit what the did until they encroached on your life and started affecting your life. That's when you started to take your head out of the sand and realize what was going on. And the way you said, when you said that a few years ago, I loved it. I loved it because it just showed you, like, that's what people have to do now. They are intruding on our lives this much that everyone needs to find out what's going on. And you was just a normal person who've gone on to speak to some of the brightest minds in the world and being one of the strongest voices against what's going on. And you wouldn't have done it until you got affected by what was happening 3 years ago. So I love the way you said that.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Talking of penalty takers, the penalty is excuse me, is 93, Bushnell 93. So I'm here with the two great penalty takers. I wanted to change tack slightly because we've got Mark in the show with us, and I've been joking with Matt about this for a while about aliens, and me and Rickie have been talking about aliens. And are you all right? Are you all right revealing what happened to you last week, Rick?
Yeah. So Tom's been speaking to me, and I've never seen one. I said to him, never seen one, to be honest. And I've looked into the sky many a times, not looking for a UFO, but just looking at the stars, and I've never seen one. And Tom showed me his sighting a few weeks ago. And I was in Norway last week, and it was just me and my mum up. The kids went to bed, my dad was in bed, and we were just having a talk and looking up. And I see one, I see one exactly like what Tom's seen. A star which was lower going across the sky faster than a plane. And then another one coming in a different direction, a lot slower, slowed down, and then sped up. And I caught it on video. Like I was a couple of winds in, so the video's not the best. But yeah, no, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the timing of it. It was like I said, my mind's getting opened all the time to new stuff. And since meeting Tom, I've opened it up even more than it's ever been opened. So the fact that I see now is definitely a sign. And I was saying to my mum, that is too much of a coincidence. It's too much of a coincidence. It's unbelievable.
That's brilliant, buddy. And you were in Norway. Norway's 96, which is spaceship 96. So it's appropriate that you had it in Norway, you know? Yeah. And we did, and the newspapers did a kind of future prediction on it about a week or two before. The night after I'd seen the ships here in Bournemouth. Well, the big one, and there was another one kind of flanking it. It would flash on and off, but randomly, not like a plane thing, but just over there, and then a minute later another one over here. But the night after, the paper came out, and it was a big thing about space, and there was Kevin De Bruyne on there, who wears number 17 on his shirt, interestingly enough, which is cute. But it also had this bit about Belgium and space, and you've been doing your football coaching badges in Belgium just recently, and it was like, look, and you said to me, are they talking to us, Tom? I said, yeah, they are, buddy. And then 2 weeks later, or 10 days later, you get, see, my alarm just went off. It just confirmed it. Just confirmed it. About 10 days later, you get your own experience, you know. So, and Mark's the one that taught me how, I was seeing them randomly, but he's the one that taught me how to focus in on an area in the sky, and you just kind of give it an intention and either speak to it or just say internally or externally, okay, I'm ready, show me. And then they start to move in, and that's what they do. And Mark's a master at it. And the other thing about it is, the first time I did that proper intention, I looked at Arcturus, and I've got a lot of stuff recently in the last few days that seem to indicate that me, you, Matt, and Mark probably are all from Arcturus, and that's why we're awake. This is why we're doing this. And the papers confirmed it yesterday. They had a title on the front of the papers, and it came to my birthday, 2/15, but it also comes to the Arcturian Council. And I got this lovely download message from these people I interviewed at the beginning of the week called the Venus Twins, who Mark's interviewed. But I've got codes on that being some from Arcturus, you, Rickie, Mark, and me. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to mention it today. So, yeah, it's the Great Awakening, boys.
It's Rickie, you should look up a guy called Alex Collier, right? And I interviewed him about a year ago, and he's been talking about this stuff for like 30 years. He's a proper veteran, and I did an interview with him, and I explained. So I got I'll just tell you this story, Rickie, because I just think you'll like this story, right? So because it is a bit, me coming out online and saying my first memory was demons trying to recruit me, and then I see spaceships, was a little bit of a career buster at the time for me, because I was like, oh fuck, have I really said that online? But it is time to start talking about this stuff, because I got an email from somebody saying, Mark, they know that you look up every night, and that's what got my attention, because I do. Can you still hear me, Tom? I can see your face. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not used to. And I read this email, and basically the email said, they want you to look up, connect with a star, the one that you feel like you have a connection with, and then ask that star to move left and right and up and down in your mind, which I did. And then it started moving, and I was like, fucking hell, is anybody watching? And then there was a flash in the sky to the right, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And I heard in my head, did you see that? I went, yeah. And there was another flash, and then, did you see that? Yeah. And then it said to me, are you scared? And I said, no. And then this beautiful, huge light popped up in the sky above the houses near me. And it just went across the rooftops really slowly. And I was just watching it with my gob open. And then suddenly the sky lit up, and it was a big triangular with round edges, orange, kind of a burnt orange color with loads of black hieroglyphics on it, a ship, huge. And then it just Star Trek'd off like that. And I was like, fuck. And I went and woke my son up, and I said, Joe, wake up. And he's like, oh, not another UFO. And I was like, no, this was massive. And then I spoke to Alex Collier, the Andromeda. He's been on the ships before with the Andromedans, is how he describes them. And when I spoke to him about it, he said, that was your future self, Mark. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought of that. And that's happened a lot. Me and Tom were touring in America last year. And at the end of the tour, there was a guy, I don't know if you know 107, who sat down and briefing all of these influencers. And I was listening to him, and he was going, don't talk about the UFOs. They're not from outer space. And then he kept talking. And at the end of it, I said, you talk about them as if you know what they are. One. And he said, and basically he was going, yeah, I do, but don't talk about it. But everybody, so we got, and the other thing is Project Bluebeam, right? At the same time as all these real experiences that are being shared by lots of people like us, there's the whole concept of Project Bluebeam, which is a well-known project that goes back 30 plus years, which is all about the final weapon that they have against us to create the New World Order is a fake alien invasion, which I think the technology for which was shown in that, not the last Spider-Man film, but the one before with the guy with the big round head, with the holograms, and inside the holograms are the drones of the weapons. So it will be like real destruction, but it's all holographic.
Oh, Magneto.
Yeah, no, not Magneto. Jake, I can't remember this.
No, I know.
Him. Yeah, Jack. Yeah.
So it's for me, all these ships are confirmations. I sit in the garden every single night in front of a fire, and they're out every single night. And where I live is the UFO capital of Ireland. It's known as the Roswell of Ireland because there was a crash in '96 in the hills that I can see from my back garden. And there's people here that I've met, loads of them have had alien experiences, well, UFO experiences. And the UFO Society of Ireland was based here for 20 years before the woman that founded it died about 10 years ago. So it's real, but it's connected to consciousness, I think. And it's connected to this awakening. And I think it's to do with your personal frequency. When they know everything about us, right? But they have a rule. And I do think it is interdimensional, and it involves time, because I think in the fifth dimension where we're headed, time doesn't exist. And that's a real fucker to get your head around, because it's extremely difficult to imagine that when you've been stuck in 3D for your whole life.
Yeah. This is the one we got, boys. So yesterday, so if you can see that, the Arcturian Council 215 comes to Inspector Clueless. So that was yesterday's paper. But if you just do Arcturian Council, it takes us back to 182, which is Matt and my topic we always talk about is the flux capacitor. And you're talking about it being time travel and being affecting time. So I think, Matt, when we were getting the flux capacitor stuff over the last few months, 182, that comes to Arcturian Council. And it's like, why did I get that? Why did you get that? Why did we get synchronicity between ourselves? And why are we here with Mark and with Rickie? And we've seen ships, and it's like we're all connected.
As Matt, have you seen ships?
Not clearly. I do in the summer. I do like to sit out in the garden on my hammock and just have a look up at the stars. But I haven't really seen a clear. I've seen like stuff flying across the sky and thinking, Jesus, that's going quick. But I've never really got a clear sighting of anything. Yeah,
I've seen satellites and I've seen stuff like that, but this was, yeah, it was brighter than a star. It was bigger than a star, and it moved a lot quicker than any plane. A lot quicker, even quicker than satellites that you see at night. It was, yeah, it was incredible. But the way you was talking there, Mark, about consciousness, that makes. I was speaking to you, Tom, wasn't I? I think we're going through a moment where everyone's consciousness is getting opened, and I think why they're doing what they're doing is that they're trying to stop it. They're trying to stop the Great Awakening, which is everyone's consciousness opening up, and go like the way you described going through the dimensions. I've been looking into that as well, and it just resonated with me again. It was unbelievable. So I definitely do believe that. I'm still trying to work out, and I've still got questions, and I go back and forth all the time from being spiritually and consciously aware to then asking the other questions of, no, this is the world that we live in, and these people are in charge, and this is the way it is, and stuff like. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. So, and you remember that you were telling me about frequency, Rick? Yeah. You told me. Do you want to share that? Because I was like, that's something I would say to someone on my show, but you said it to me, and I was like, this is Rickie Lambert telling me about frequency.
No, I've always thought it, and this was way before I got awakened. This is way before I got awakened. When did I get awakened? About 7 years ago. But even before that, I knew everything was vibrations. I knew it. I thought relation, environments that you're in, the music, the food, everything's vibrations, and everything has a certain vibration. And
Rick, it's in our language.
Yeah,
it's hidden in our language. What do you say if you meet people that you like? Oh, I got a good vibe off him.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Yeah, it is, and I've always felt that, and I've always felt like meeting the right people, you hit their vibration, and then you think you like certain aspects. It's nice because the vibration is right. And I've always said to my wife, Amy, vibrations are off here. We need to sort it out. And you just when the vibrations are off, you have an argument. Something's not right. You need to deal with it, and that's when things kind of break down. But I'm starting to spiritually become aware, like the way you say grounding, and I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to meditate.
Have you had any visions yet in your meditations?
No. I've been trying to open my my pineal gland. I got very deep on one occasion, and I forgot where I was completely. but I didn't have no visions. It took me a while to come back to where I was at, but I had no visions.
Have you ever used plant medicine?
I've had one experience on a certain mushroom, shall I say.
Yeah, they're really nice with eggs and bacon.
I didn't even say that.
Yeah.
Little butter mushrooms at Tesco.
Talk to you about this. So I had an experience on mushrooms, magic mushrooms, Mark, and it was I've got to be honest, one of the worst experiences of my life I have ever had. It was one of the best experiences, but it was definitely the hardest time I've ever had. It was horrific. I had a bad one, and I've got to be honest. I went into a loop, and I couldn't get out of it. And I joked to Tom, I was in it for 27 years. Now, everyone laughs at me when I tell them that story, but it felt like I was in it for 27 years. I couldn't get out of it.
Interesting number, 27. Interesting number, because have you heard of the 27 Club?
No.
Have you heard people like Amy Winehouse and people like that who all died at the age of 27? Jimi Hendrix. And that's an interesting number. A lot of people talk to me about, I won't do that again because I had a bad trip. And for a long time, ayahuasca, for example, is very, very hardcore. And one of the first things ayahuasca does, the spirit of ayahuasca, is because it's really, I think, a technology. And it gets rid of people's fear of death. When my friend first did it, he was strangled to death by the spirit, and I was like, "Whoa, that sounds really scary. I don't want to do that." And then eventually I did, because the spirits of these plants call you to them, and when like the teacher appears when the student is ready. And I only bring it up. I'm not saying I recommend this, but I think these things are tools that have been placed there. And how did they get placed there? That's the question that I think is really interesting, because you've got magic mushrooms, you've got peyote in North America, you've got ayahuasca in South America, and these plants are all part of indigenous cultures. And most of the people that I think have been operating in that field that are good people have told me the same thing, and that is that the spirit of the plant told them to spread across the world, because a lot of people say to you, you can't do ayahuasca if you're not in the jungle, but the facilitators, the shamans, have said the spirit told them to spread it out in preparation for this time, so that more people had an evolved consciousness to help us get through this period. So it is very, very interesting. And the other thing is, it's a bit like CBD was seen as like this terrible thing 10 years ago. Now you can get it pretty much everywhere, right? Because CBD is the element of cannabis that does incredible things for your cannabidiol system in your own body, which can cure cancer. It can release anxiety and depression. The active ingredient inside magic mushrooms is psilocybin, which actually rewires your brain for happiness. I mean, it's a major tool in getting rid of depression. And right now, following the biggest psychological operation, military grade, on the human race in history over the last 3 years, we need tools like this, because people are suffering massively with anxiety. I was speaking to a psychologist yesterday. She said she's never had a waiting list, and she's got one now. And what she's seeing is shocking. And the suicide rate is through the roof worldwide, as well as the excess death rate. And a lot of that is because of all this panic and anxiety. So the reason I'm explaining, I don't even know why I'm explaining this to the audience, is that don't be afraid of these things either. The reason why things like plant medicine have been demonized by the bad guys is because they don't want you to fucking know about them.
No, Mark, honestly, I think the reason why I had that bad trip, there was stuff going on in my personal life. And when I look back, I wasn't in the right place at all to have experienced it. But I had two messages. I had visions that I can't even go into to explain, but the two messages that came back to me, the other consciousnesses in there with me was kind of mocking me, kind of laughing, going, he hasn't got a clue what consciousness is, and his ego's too big. That was the two feelings throughout my body that I came back with. So I will take it again. I will take, but I'm going to be in a better place when I do.
How old were you when you had that experience?
It was about 7 months ago. 7 months ago, and I'd broken up from Amy. I think I might have told you. So I haven't been with Amy for eight months. Still married. Just had a separation, so I was very stressed. Wasn't in the best.
Amy's on the front of the papers today, Rick.
What do you mean?
So on the front of the papers, I've got a sister called Amy and I've got a sister called Julie. And on the headlines on one of the papers, it says Amy and Julie. But now you're bringing up your Amy. Amy's right in the top corner of the name. So I don't know. You know, I think they're trying to comfort you somehow. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. No, I will be in I'm in a better place now. I'll be honest. I'm in a better place now. But I'm not ready to take it again. But I definitely will take it. I've spoke to other people saying don't let that experience dictate doing it again, and I won't.
26 ego. You said about ego. I think ego gets a hard rap, but you know sometimes it needs to be kept in check. But ego is 27 in the numbers, so it's interesting you were there for 27 years, and 27 is code. So you were getting a lot of code. Mark was saying about the changing of the neural landscape with it, but also code is JFK. 27 is JFK, and Mark said you were talking about frequency, and then Mark said it's in our language. I came up with a phrase a few months ago, and Mark said, "What did you say?" And I came up with this thing of Trump. Well, the Trump card is 114, frequency is 114, but also Dove language is 114, which is best language. And he's like, "Well, what do you mean by the Dove?" And I got this set of downloads a few months ago about the Dove being the antidote to the Matrix. And if you know the show Red Dwarf, I was talking about it, and someone said, we've got a brilliant set of digital soldiers that support us with giving us info and, like kind of reference checkers. If, there's so much out there, but we get nuggets sent in. And I can't remember the person's name, but thank you for it. So Red Dwarf, the TV series, Red Dwarf actually, Red is 27 JFK and Dwarf is Dove 46. But Red Dwarf, the TV show, there's a bit in there where they do this thing where there's a bunch of four baddies. They've gone back 100 years in the Wild West, and then there's the four main characters, and they're all trying to destroy this thing, and they're known as and Mark says about this Luke Skywalker moment with the Death Star. So they get down to the very last guy. He's the last white hat, effectively, because they're kind of dressed in cream or lighter hats. You've got the four dark hats. It's a Wild West movie, and he pulls out two guns to shoot them. And his pistols turn into two doves. And I was like, that's a reference. And then what they say is the doves neutralize, they destroyed them, and they basically go back into the ship with the Matrix, and then the game's over. So the dove is really important, but dove language is 114, which is frequency. And it was interesting Mark said about that. And vibrate, the word vibrate is 77, which is Christ, which is power, which is hertz. It's all to do with frequency. It's all to do with the Christ consciousness. It's all to do with meditation and vibration and all of that. You're going to say something for that, Mark?
But I just realised Matt hasn't spoken in ages, so I muted myself. But sorry, Matt. I just got a couple of dove stories because I lived in Marrakesh for 4 years in the middle of nowhere, and this white dove appeared on my bedroom windowsill for 2 weeks. It was just there was no white doves in Morocco, and there's this white dove for 2 fucking weeks, and it was like until I listened to myself, and then I had to go and look it up. And I think the reason I'm sharing that is because a lot of people will notice that animals visit them or they I did a video sat here the other day, and at the end of the video, a caterpillar landed on me from the tree as I was talking about the fact that we're going through this transformation. And what's interesting about a caterpillar is that there's a cell inside the caterpillar called the imagio cell. I think I've pronounced it right. An imagio cell enables that caterpillar to instantly transform into a butterfly. It doesn't gradually transform, it instantly transforms into a butterfly when it's inside the chrysalis. And I put a line in one of my poems about this. And as I was saying, that's this caterpillar landed on me. And it's synchronicities like that that we've got to keep an eye out for, because there's things like the numbers that show you that you're on the right path. And it's as simple as even going to Google and saying, what's the spiritual significance of a white dove or a robin or a caterpillar or whatever? Because all the indigenous people know this about the animals. They know that this stuff is real. And sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but I just had a flash of something that I want people to think about. You know, the artwork inside the walls of what they teach us is caveman art. Most people can imagine it's like the stick man with a spear going for a buffalo, that kind of thing. What if those pictures were not recordings? It wasn't them recording, oh, we had a great day hunting today, let's draw it on the wall. What if they were manifestations? Let's manifest this bull or this animal, and they drew it, and they went outside, and there it was, and then they got their dinner. That's the kind of thinking.
Very good point.
Kind of thinking that we have to shift to.
Yeah. Well, manifesting is 107, which is quantum, which is happiness.
Which is 17.
You drop the 0 at 17, 107. And 107 is the one that told me about the White Dove Society, 207. And I'd never heard of it until a few months ago. And he just dropped it in. I was like, can you tell us a bit more? He said, not right now, but he knew I'd run down, searching all over the place for it. But it's like, there is a benevolent force. I think they're one of the forces out there, one of the groups out there, the White Dove Society, that are helping with all this clear up. I wanted to change tracks a little bit. So I wanted to talk about the elephant in the room.
Listen,
what's that, Matt?
I'm trying to lose weight. You don't have to say that.
Well, when I lined it up like that, I was gonna go straight to you with a question. I was like, I'm not calling you an elephant, Matt, but you see, we're on the same frequency. You came out with it. So you're looking as just as handsome as a Rickie. So we're all beautiful. We're all beautiful boys here.
Just on manifestation, by the way, just before you change the subject, right? Yeah. I'd never really kind of given it much thought and all that kind of stuff. And I told this story for like 20 years. And it's only now when I look back. But when I scored the last ever goal at the Dell. I told this story for 20 years, and I didn't even realize what I was saying. But I told the story that on the Tuesday before the game on the weekend, I was told that I was going to be substituting. I was told that I was going to be on the pitch when the final whistle went. And from that moment onwards, I was obsessed with wanting to be the last person that scored a goal at the Dell. And my every waking moment and whenever I went to put my head on a pillow at night, all I was doing in my mind was imagining how I was going to score the last goal at the Dell. I was obsessed with it. I just wanted it. I felt like it had to be me. And then with a minute and a half to go, I had a pretty difficult chance, smashed it in the top corner with my left foot. And so I told this story, but I didn't. And it never really crossed my mind that it actually could have been me manifesting that situation.
It was.
Just that and wanting it so badly that I was able to conjure it up.
Well, you guys, you and Rickie must have dreamt about being professional footballers when you were kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
You manifest. I mean, I'm a council house kid from Northampton, and I wanted to be a pilot in the RAF. I manifested it. I did it. How? And I didn't realize that was manifesting as a kid. Nobody told me about the law of attraction then. But we are incredible. Our potential is massive. They know that about us because we are the creators of our own reality. And that's why they fuck up with. That's why they screw up with our frequency so much, because they're trying to put us off. Firstly, finding that out, and secondly, they're putting frequencies into us so that we create the reality that they want us to live in. So we create our own prison, and they do that mainly through symbolism. If you walk around, I mean, I remember being in London when I was first learning about symbolism. I remember being in London one day, and I just looked around me, and I was like, "Fuck, is that what? And what symbol is in London that you cannot walk 3 steps without seeing?"
Saturn,
the underground.
Yeah.
That's Saturn. There's even an art exhibition in the 1930s explaining that it was based on Saturn. And that symbol carries a frequency that comes into our head. So it's like software coming into the hardware, and then we create the reality. And they know that about us. But we're just waking up to it.
Matt, you said, I remember, so you might not remember this, but the first time you and me met was when you kindly did an interview for me about 12 years ago. I was trying to write a book on confidence in football, and you were brilliant because, you know, you're Matt Le Tissier, and you turned up and we did a great episode together, and you told me clearly about that last incident at the Dell. So it's amazing how we come full circle and you realise you've manifested that. So I've just done some numbers. The Dell comes to 66, which is happy, and you were definitely happy when you scored that last goal. Matt Le Tissier is 170, bolt of lightning. So add the Dell, add manifesting, which is 107 quantum. It takes you to 343. 343 comes to, I think, that ship that went past. So the New Jerusalem, the mothership, 343, which comes to President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And we've already spoken about JFK. But then this is when it gets fun with the numbers. So if I take off 245, which is my full name, Thomas Sidney Bushnell, it comes to 245. There's a remaining figure, 98, which is Attwood. And then if I do this, if I do 343, take away 126, Rickie Lambert. Rickie Lambert is 107, 126. We've already spoken about one. 126 is also John Connor, Sarah Connor, which is the time travelers from the Terminator movies. That leaves you with a remaining figure, 217. 217 is Tom Sidney Bushnell, which is the way that I always introduce my show. And that also comes from Mission Impossible. And I think we're in a Mission Impossible movie with all these actors and stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to show you some beauty of the synchronicities of the numbers when Matt manifested scoring at the Dell. And I wanted to change tracks and talk about the elephant in the room. Mark's spoken about this a bit. I have as well. I wanted to ask your thoughts, boys, on the Holly scenario. And I'm just going to do an impression. This is my impression of Holly when she said, "Are you okay?" Anyway, that was it. So I just wanted to ask you boys what you think of what are we going to see later down the line. Mark's got a lot of thoughts on it, but I wanted to ask you, Matt and Rickie, what you think of it all.
Go on, Rick, you go.
Okay.
Matt wants to take the penalty at the end. He wants you to be the first one up, Rick.
I thought that's her speech yesterday, was it, or the day before?
Yeah.
The fact that
are you okay, Rickie?
The fact that she even gets to speak to the country like that shows you exactly where the TV stations are still at. But I just thought the words she said and the way she addressed it, I mean, it just still shows you how gullible the people in this country are. Now, even though that there's a lot of people waking up, a lot of people still watch these programs and still believe these people, what they're saying. Actors, like you're saying. Not only that, they still follow the news. Now, have we not learned anything from Jim? Everyone thought this situation would never happen again. Now, I'm not saying it's happened, but it looks pretty clear to me that something very wrong has happened. Very wrong has happened. And there's a lot of people who knew about it, have protected him, made sure that he's still there, gave him powers. Everyone says that these powers over people who could just dismiss them and talk rude to them and get away with it. So these people knew he was there. They knew what he was doing. And they've allowed it. Not only that, it's come out. It's obviously got too big that it was going to break anyway. So they've had to get rid of him. Holly's still working there. The people who protected him are still working there. And this country hasn't gone into a meltdown. Still is on telly telling us his side of the story. How are we still allowing this to happen as a country? These people should be dragged away from our TV stations and put in jail. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. Or they need to be investigated and they need to be arrested and investigated straight away. So it just shows you, like, everyone thought that this country has moved on. A lot of people have not moved on, and the type of narrative that they still try and push onto people is absolutely disgusting. But I'm hoping a lot of people seeing through that. She's got a lot of stick for it, and a lot of people are seeing it for what it is. But I get angry, to be honest. My first feeling is anger when I see her sat there on that couch speaking like that. It's anger.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be pretty stupid to think that Holly didn't know everything that was going on. Yeah. You've got to be pretty gullible to think that this sweet little innocent lady who said to me, I asked him. Bullshit, in my opinion. So I 100% agree with Rick. I think there's so much that goes on the television that is bullshit, and yet there's still a lot of people that watch the BBC News and believe every word that they say. But I do believe that there is a growing portion of the population that don't. And I think that proportion of the population has grown quite considerably, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, given kind of the reaction that I get when I go out in public. It's very different from the one that I was getting 3 years ago. The support that I get now from people who might have been afraid 2 or 3 years ago to come up and say, "Oh, well done, thanks for what you're doing." There are people now nearly every day coming up to me and just shaking my hand and going, "Thank you very much." Complete strangers just going, "Thanks very much for what you're doing." We know, I think, that there is a lot of stuff in this world that is very bad that goes on. A lot of people don't want to accept that that's the case. It's too difficult for them to accept. And I get that, but I think what the last 2 or 3 years has shown to me, and I've always kind of realised, looking at the judicial system over the years and seeing, the punishment that some of these crimes get, the soft penalties that, the people, and I've always wondered why it was. And I've never really thought that deeply about it, but I'd always had this question in the back of my mind: why are these people, why are people getting less sentences than people who have done far less things in this world? And it kind of suddenly dawned on me that, blimey, they're being protected, and the only logical explanation for that is that unfortunately we have at the highest levels of our society who decide what the rules are, what the laws are. And people have for so long been indoctrinated into the fact that that it's great and it's a really fair country. What if
exactly.
What's in place?
What
systems are in place for us to root out these people? And the answer is that there is no mechanism in place. Are at the top echelons of our society is if they are, we have no system in place that can out them, and that is the worst thing about it all. So I'm not even saying that there is definitely in the top echelons of our society. What I'm saying is there is no system in place to out them if there are in those places, and that is what is wrong with our society.
Yeah,
exactly. The fox is running the chicken coop. It's like that's what it is.
I think Mark spoke about it perfectly yesterday, and he summed it up perfect. Ring, and trying to wake people up to actually what they do is it was the hardest thing for me to come across. So trying to tell other people about it is it's virtually impossible because they don't want to hear it.
Well, they can't believe that a human being would do that. That's the issue, and that leads you to the point where you go, well, if a human being can't do that, what are they? But then when you start looking, I mean, I got mine taken down 2 weeks ago, 60,000 subscribers, 2 years work, all gone in an instant because I related, but specifically to a really good documentary that everybody should go and watch called, right? That is an amazing film. It's on my Rumble channel, the video that I made about it. But once I posted it, all got deleted, the whole channel, no warning, because somebody doesn't want that connection being made somewhere. And when you look into it, it gets deeply, deeply esoteric. And I've got my own personal experiences of, I did 3 TV shows at Granada TV back in nearly 30 years ago. And a producer told me that a really big producer within that organization had just got married, and she was laughing. And I was like, what's so funny about it? And she said, because we all know he's getting married to girls. And I was like, what did you just say? You know, so God puts you in particular places in your life so that you pick up these bits of information so that you can start piecing all this together. And the shocking fact is that since the Second World War, people need to understand and look up is, well, that's the real. And I think personally, and I've been slagged off for it, but I don't care. We have to face this demon collectively to move through it, which all relates to the Hopi prophecy of the eagle and the condor coming together, which is this time that we're in right now. It's like the dark and the light coming through and then emerging into this new consciousness. And we need to unite on this. You know, what we need right now is unity, and we're not going to get it from the police. And people are waking up to that now, because that's all maritime law, and they use legalese to get us into contracts where we have to represent a fictional version of ourselves called the straw man, and we've been conned since birth. And you know, we're in one great big system, but the dark cannot survive in the light. So that's why I applaud you guys for standing up and coming on shows like this, because it's so important. And if you're watching this, guys, share it. Please share it, because we need people to wake up right now and stand up, because we are many and they are few.
Well said, Mark. Well said, Matt. Well said, Rickie. Talking of this whole thing, well, actually, you just remind me of something, Matt, Mark. I'll mention it. So myself and hopefully Mark and Rickie and Matt, you're invited next Thursday on the 15th of June is the anniversary of the Magna Carta. And we've been invited to go and do a gathering and do a little documentary. They're going to film some important things at the Magna Carta next Thursday. So I don't know what your schedules are like, boys, but if you want to come along, there'll be a few people there. And it'll be an important documentary, because that is the origins of, at least, you know, a far better system than what we're in now. So that you talked about the law and the legal system, but yeah, Magna Carta at Runnymede, just near Windsor Castle down on the River Thames. But people come along. If you want to come along, just come along to that. Going back to the thing so I looked at the numbers on this, to 163, which comes to 23 when you spell it out. His full name, which comes to 223. We're in the year of 2023. If you drop the 0, we're in the year of 2023. I don't believe there's any coincidence that his name is that he was chosen and given those names, because they do everything by numbers. The light do things by numbers, because intrinsically, inherently, numbers are all, you know, everything's good. But when you come into this 3D matrix and you do the dark splitting from the light, that's when you get the polar opposites. So Philip Schofield, 163, comes to the word, or two words, 23. 107 has said that things happen in that change the world on a 23. So I'm hopeful that things will start now. I definitely feel that things in 2024 will kick off, because President Trump said that's the final battle. But when I draw it into it further, comes to 223. 223 comes to military tribunals. Derek Johnson has spoken about that, saying that we're supposed to start to see things this summer. Hopefully we do. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Scoff as part of the, you know, could you imagine the shift on that if we start to see Philip? We see the narrative go further out and we see people like him in military tribunals. I don't know, but we might be going to that. But his numbers from the bad side, I think, were deliberately picked, because do you want to say about, and what did he say, Mike? This is your punchline about the father thing with
You talking to me?
Yeah. Talking to you, Mark.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
I think, yeah, it's very possible that there's a lot.
And what was the bit you said that a while ago? You saw him say it on TV.
Yeah, he was on the sofa on this morning. Somebody posted a video of him saying
on the casting couch, on the spell casting couch. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, spell casting couch. Exactly.
Yeah.
Stop paying your TV license, people. That's how we take them down initially. He actually said on TV, you know, imagine if you were in a scandal, like you were the son.
They have to tell you. They
do.
I think Holly's connected. So I saw a video the other day of the clip of Holly saying hello, are you okay? And then the hug to Josie and all the rest of it. That's what I think is going to happen. Holly will go. There'll be more stuff comes out. Josie comes in and becomes the new presenter because there's continuity, and then eventually that show will probably go, I think. But we'll see. But the clip was there, and it was 138. 138 is a lot of great numbers, but 138 again, the evil bastards know the good numbers, 38. And so Holly's talking. Me and Mark have been talking about this thing with potentially one of the children of. I wouldn't be surprised if Holly is. Holly's produced. She's part of the farm. You know, I think she's closely connected. Because how did she get in that position? Why Holly? You know, why Holly?
Wow, I haven't even thought of a situation like that at all.
That's what they do, Rick. They give them all different names. They inseminate all over the place because their bloodline thing. They believe in the bloodline more than probably the good guys do. It's like the bloodline, you know, and that's what they do. It's like, who are you? Oh, we're such and such. Give you a different name, new identity, but you're my offspring. You're my bloodline. That's what they do. Yeah. And the thing Mark said about how they've been taken so consistently in such large numbers for such a long time, and how we don't see it. I was talking to my mate Alan McDonald. I have to get Alan to come on the show, and he loved the show we did a few weeks ago, Ricky. He thought you were a mate because he resonates so much with your story. But he was telling me, and he'd worked out. I don't know if these figures are accurate, but he was saying it could be potentially like 1 in 6 go missing. I'm like, how do we not know about it? How do we not know about it? I think they're using trickery, wizardry, and dark magic to cover it, to make people be in this coma of not understanding. How on earth can they get away with disappearing? If you hear of one kid anywhere disappearing, everybody in your world would know, but how are they doing it? How are they doing it? There's other forces at play.
I think the first place that you would look at, if say when Matt takes over and becomes Prime Minister.
There you go, yeah, PM Tissier.
I think
would be your cabinet.
one of the first things you would look into is the care home. What happens to these kids, especially abroad. It's just
war zones. They're going and attack Haiti or Ukraine. You know, you've got all these orphan kids, and then they just line them up, take them away.
Let's talk about. Oh shit.
Yeah, go on, Mark.
Sorry, yeah, Haiti, right? Weather controlled. They create the storm. They go in, you know, and
Tony Robbins
bases. We have literally people have no idea of the scale of this. It's huge, absolutely huge.
I seen a YouTube video of a lady who was looking after people in Haiti when it hit, and she said blatantly, people are coming from the US. And she blatantly said it on a YouTube video. It kind of went viral and then it just disappeared. And she came out saying the people coming from the US to.
Yep.
It's hard to imagine. I think this is why people will not do anything about it. It's probably the last thing that people want to talk about and accept, because
it's also. Sorry, Ricky.
They don't want that evil in their own hearts. Do you know what I mean?
But it's also
you can't see what's not in you. Like, you can't see what's. Yeah. If you're not capable of it, it's very difficult for you to see it. Like Mark said, that's why the populace don't believe it, because most people are good intentioned. They're just born in this farm, which is suppressive, but they can't envisage it, and that's why it's so tough for them to, because it's not within their soul. You know, that's why it's tough for them to even contemplate it. Sorry, Mark, go on.
No, I was just going to say, saying all that, the issue with it is the one thing that I think can unite everybody.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the true enemy of the human race is currently hidden. And what I think we're seeing with all of it is like a sting operation, because everybody's being flushed out. And the human race has to, you can't tell somebody, they have to see it and feel it themselves. That's why I call the last 3 years this spiritual quarantine, because really we've all had to look inside ourselves and look at the world, because the world that we lived in doesn't exist. It's gone, you know. And this process of moving into the new world, which I'm an apocalyptimist, even though it's misspelt on my t-shirt, is I put this on by accident this morning. It's where we're going is amazing, but it is going to take time. It's the one issue I think that could unite everybody.
Yeah. Isn't there a that says the crimes against humanity unite the world?
Yeah, and also Q said also that sometimes you have to see things. You can't,
Yeah.
and you know, and we've all experienced this, because you can't wake somebody up by telling them stuff. I mean,
No, they
I've
don't
had
listen.
people stick their fingers in their ears at me and say, you know, they literally don't want to hear it. But
Cousins blocking me.
if they experience it themselves and they see it for themselves, that's why I think my channel got taken. The narrative is being controlled,
Yeah.
100%. And I believe that they have time travel. I believe they have consciousness machines. This is all about consciousness, right? When I went to meet President Trump in Ireland the other week, they didn't search my car. They didn't frisk me. How was I getting through security? They've got technology way beyond anything we can imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Matt, I wanted to ask, so you've spoken, because you grew up in the Channel Islands and you had a beautiful childhood. You know, you played on the beaches and football, cricket, all the sports. You just had a really good family upbringing. Did you ever in your time see anything around the Channel Islands at all that made you think, that's a bit weird, what's that?
No, I didn't really. I was kind of oblivious to everything. Like I say, I just grew up as a little kid, just obsessed with sport, wanting to play sport every second outside of school, and I didn't really see anything that kind of alerted me to any wrongdoing that was going on. I just had as you said, I just had a really happy upbringing. Spent a lot of time on the beach, spent a lot of time playing sport, and yeah, a lot of time dreaming about being a professional footballer. And
you manifested it and it happened. Yeah. That's the other thing. That's the thing with the two sides of it, is the darkness that people haven't seen. And then the positive stuff where you can manifest and create the world. And that's what I do think. That's literally, it sounds simple, but I think that's what it is. I think humanity is going to wake up to what's been going on. I do believe that all the bad stuff has been, the head of the beast has been cut out. I think a lot of this stuff is good psyops, dare I use that phraseology, to show and wake people up. I can't comment on every single case, you know, because people are dying, people are suffering. But I do believe if we were really in the real shitter, we'd all be rounded up. You, me, Rickie, Mark would all had a knock at the door and we'd have been gone ages ago, I believe. If they were fully rampant and had full control. Now I think it's this staged operation to wake people up, because as you said, Rick, people are still gullible, unfortunately. You know, people still believe stuff. They are waking up. I'm seeing that with close family and friends. They're getting it, and this is the beauty of it. So I was out on the beach the other day at the weekend. So a couple of my sisters, Amy, one of them that I mentioned, came down with their kids, and we just went in the sea. We're in the sea on the beach, and the boys were asking me, they're like, "What's your last name?" And I'm like, "Well, Bushnell," because they've got different surnames because it's my sister's kids. And then one of them said to me, well, Zach said to me, and we got the same birthday, he's a lovely lad, and he's like, "Oh, what's your last name?" And I said, Numbers, Tom Numbers. He went, "Yeah," and he gives me a high five. Anyway, we're having a chat out in the ocean. I spoke to Mark about this, and they're telling me stuff about future selves. Ethan's telling me about future selves. Zach's talking about super soldiers. They're getting all this stuff online on TikTok. Nate said to me about the Rothschilds. And my sisters are kind of hearing it, and then they're kind of like, and they carry on, you know, getting the sandwiches out and stuff. So, but they're waking up, because I told Amy and Lucy, one of my other sisters, when they came down about 2 weeks ago, they asked them, and I told them, I said, "This is what's going to drop." That he's, you know, and then Amy said when she came the other day, she said, "Yeah," and the next day after you told us that, that's when it all, you know, actually it was confirmed. Well, you know, they haven't said it yet, but they have said it. So they're getting it. They are waking up. But the beauty of it, and I hadn't fully realised, but when I was around my nephews, I realised that the kids are getting it and they're waking up. They're star seeds, you know, and it was amazing. And then I said, if something happens to, I said, me and Mark's channel's been taken down. A lot of us are getting a whack. I said, if something happens to us, if we disappear for a while, we're just in protection. We'll be back in a few months. And they said, "And we'll carry on your legacy." So the kids are getting it, which I think is amazing, because they're the new generation, you know. And they are, there's a reason our relatives are related to us. And I said that to them. I said, "You guys are all star seeds, you're ready." And I said to Nate, I was like, you're gonna start seeing ships. I told him about your story, Rickie. I said, my mate Rickie, the footballer, he saw some ships and they were ready. The boys, I'm sure they're going to see them very soon. So I think that's the positive side of it, that humanity is waking up, and particularly the kids of today, some of them really do get it, and they're the future.
Let's hope so.
I think so. It feels that way. I was blown away. I was really happy about that. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that my own nephews are, you know, so awake. So that was the real first chance that we'd had,
it needs
to talk about that stuff, you know, together.
Yeah.
But like this thing out on the beach, we were just crashing in the waves and we're talking, and they just didn't want to stop. They kept asking me questions. I could, the vibe was off the charts. It was amazing.
I spoke briefly about stuff to my eldest boy, Carter. I was blown away at how much he actually knows. And I haven't spoke to him about how the world's run or anything like that. He came to me and he said, and I was like, Carter, I cannot believe how much you know. I said, you're already on the path. I said, you're already. And I talked to him all the time about manifestation. I said, Carter, if you want to do something, mate, you think of you doing it and it will happen. So I'm trying to learn him that. It is all about that, but I've got to say, and I hate bringing it down, is that it needs to happen very soon, because they are putting in things, laws. They are about to change the world that we live in. And so the way I look at it, we are on the doorstep of the Great Awakening, and behind us, the floor is crumbling into the. So the life we know is not gonna stay. We're gonna go one way or the other. We're either gonna open the door and all step through together, or we're all gonna crumble and fall into the new. I think that is upon us. I think that's going to be upon us in the next 2 years. That's my opinion. I've seen what these are planning years ago, and I've been watching them implement or try and implement laws to do exactly what they've been telling us that they are planning to do. And they are trying to do that, and they are trying. This country, I told you last week or the other week, didn't I, Tom? This country will be the starting point of it. I think this country, out of all the countries, has lost the most. By what I mean is, everyone in power, and who we or the public see in power, is controlled. His is a part of it. Is only there because they are part of it, and they are about to introduce laws and restrictions on us being able to spread. So it is a matter of urgency, I think.
Yeah, it is, definitely. You triggered a thought there, Rick, when you said about this, the next 2 years, and I'm thinking of the thing that President Trump said about the final battle. And it makes me think of one of the Narnia books, Chronicles of Narnia, which is all about time travel and interdimensional realities and stuff. So I wanted to ask you boys, so Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has now put his hat in the ring for the Democrats. And he went on Elon Musk and he went on Jordan Peterson. And he's talking with a lot of confidence like he's going to win. Now, I've got a little theory on this. I haven't done a proper show on it, but I've mentioned it a couple of times. And Mark got the spiritual tingles when I mentioned it. I actually feel, and this is a bit of a quantum leap, but it's us boys, so we can all talk about it. I actually feel that perhaps, because you've got Trump and you've got the Kennedys, and the Kennedys are kind of the family in the background and Trump's leading the way, but they're both connected in terms of Q. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like the only one that's kind of politically survived from the Kennedys, because, you know, his uncle went JFK, his cousin JFK Jr. So I've looked at this. The numbers are very interesting. If you do Robert Francis Kennedy Jr., and if you do John Fitzgerald Kennedy Sr., they both come to 313. 313 comes to lift the veil from your eyes, i.e. the Great Awakening. When I was in Mar-a-Lago at President Trump's place back in 2021, November 13th, I was in his library bar. I didn't get to speak to him. I saw him outside come off the golf course. But he's got this beautiful painting. And he looks like one of the doctors. He looks like Peter Davison from Doctor Who. He's got this kind of cricket jumper. Maybe it's a sailing regalia. And it says, the visionary. The visionary is 165, which is resurrection, which is Christ's bloodline. and it says Donald J. Trump, which is 148, which is simple gematria, time traveler in the American phrase. You add them together, it comes to 313. So the visionary, Donald J. Trump, comes to 313, which comes to John Fitzgerald Kennedy Sr., which also comes to Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. And I was like, hang on, are they one and the same person? RFK is talking with power like he's going to win. And that's a real twist. We're thinking that Trump will come straight back in. But maybe we're going to see Kennedy, i.e., maybe the real Kennedy, acting as JFK, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know. It's a thought. I've had some numbers on it. Mark got the tingles when I mentioned it the other day. This is biblical, boys. Something major's coming. Something major's coming. And I think we are going to be in the jaws of the abyss, but we're going to see this biblical change and flip of consciousness and reality. Sorry,
what has to happen as well, Tom, is that if he does get in, which I think he will, and I hope he does, everything has to come down. Everything has to come down. It can't be letting.
You've got to burn the whole temple to the ground, as Gerard Butler says in that film.
He can't go back to, okay, we'll resettle and then we'll come up with another plan in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 15 years' time. This has to be the moment.
You have to torture the lot.
Everything comes down. Everything. Yes. And like you said, it will be hard times for everyone, but it has to. It's going to have to happen. We cannot go back into any society that these people are in charge. It all has to come down.
Yeah. And it'd bring the power back to the people. That's what Trump said all along. He said, we're giving the power back to you, the people. And people think it's a glib phrase. It's like, no, him and the team he's working with are going to give it back to the people globally. The whole thing has to come down. Courts, judges, people keep going. This is the other thing. I switch off when people say, oh, we're going to fight at the higher court. I don't believe in any of it. I don't believe in fucking one iota of it. I don't believe in judges. I don't believe in the police. I don't believe in governments. I don't believe in big banks, pharma, TV, nothing. I believe in my reality of what I see, and the universe manifests and tells me the stuff I know. I know that everything else is fucking fiction and bullshit, and the whole thing is going to burn. The whole thing's going to go. But at the same time, as the world is crumbling, we're going to see the glorious manifestation of our future selves connecting with ourselves now. Divine consciousness, aliens, everything is going to work to our favor and good, and that's what's going to happen. But everything else that we believe right now is all fucking shit, and it's going to go.
Tingles, Tom. Tingles.
Good, buddy. Thank you, Mark.
I think the human race will be taken to its knees.
Yeah.
And then to the point, right to the precipice, because only then will people call out for God. Because that's the point. That's what's going to unite everybody, and that's what where we go one, we go all means.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we and I want to save everybody, but it's just we're in what we're in, and we have to. What Rickie said is absolutely right. All of these things, they're not serving us. They never have.
No.
It's a construct. The whole of society has been one great big bad dream. Right, and we're waking up from the bad dream, and we're going to rebuild it in such a fantastic way.
Yeah,
and and if we're not, I'm willing to die for this. That's why I got.
We'll just check out. We're like, all right, we're off. We're out. Yeah, we'll just go.
Do you know what I mean? There's no fucking way I'm going to let my kids grow up in a total. No way.
Exactly.
They'll have to fucking come through me, and it's not. And that's what we need. We need more of that spirit.
Yeah,
and people not being afraid and speaking out and say, look, this is it, boys. We're, this is not a fucking rehearsal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Matt, you said when we went up to Mark's event last month, well, in April in Manchester, you were telling me about a guy that told you that RFK was like one of the greatest people he'd met because of what how he helped him out. Do you want to recount that story? Is Matt still there?
He's muted.
Oh, can you hear us, Matt?
Sorry, I muted myself because my dog was barking quite loud. Remind me, Tom, because I've had a lot of information come in my way in the last 2 months.
There was a guy, I think he was one of the doctors maybe, or someone quite significant, but then you said that RFK helped him, basically went out of his way to help this guy. And it was looking at.
Yes, that was the Army veteran, wasn't it? Andrew G. I think it was. Is that
Andrew
the
G.
Huff?
Huff, okay.
I think I'm pretty sure that's who it was. And yeah, he was a whistleblower.
Yeah.
Was fearing for his life, and yeah, RFK Jr. actually reached out to him and gave him some kind of protection.
Yeah.
And he really feels like that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saved his life. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I think RFK has been hiding in the show. I think we're going to see a lot more of. The vibe I'm getting from him, I'm like, hang on, this is a twist, but this is a good twist to the story. And like I said, I made the comparison about the two, his uncle and him, and people are like, well, how can that happen? It's like, well, you know what, anything's possible in the quantum realm, and that's what we're going into. And it's like, it does. I'd have to do a proper piece on the thing with the magician's nephew, but the magician's nephew is one of the Chronicles singers. Like, well, who's the magician? Perhaps it's JFK, and who's his nephew? It's RFK, and maybe they're one in the same plane. Anyway, we'll see where it goes. You've got the depiction in the film, The Prestige. Christopher Nolan, who's a white hat director, he's got the whole thing of this kind of like almost like this Tesseract time travel wardrobe device shown in that film in The Prestige with Tesla physics. So it's interesting to see. But yeah,
what do we think, Tom? What
Yes.
do we think the Mel Gibson 4-part documentary that's going to be coming out? Have you got thoughts on that?
That's very interesting. I just saw that briefly. I saw that I think yesterday or the night before. That's very interesting. So Jim Caviezel is a friend of mine who's the actor who played Christ in The Passion of the Christ, and Mel Gibson directed that. And Jim was very vocal in the beginning in terms of things. I think he's been filming and it's been a little quieter in the last year or so, but it's coming out again because they're doing the press stuff for the film The Sound of Freedom, which is all. And I was at Jim's private studio in California in 2021. And I met with Jim, and because we've been talking through lockdown, probably hundreds of, we became good friends. I haven't seen him too much recently, and I hope, if Jim, you're listening, I hope you're all right, buddy. But that film is coming out. So yeah, and Mel Gibson did the director's cut of that final piece that's going to be for The Sound of Freedom. So they're doing this kind of, they're doing this release of the film in, I think it's July. But the 4-piece documentary, I don't know too much about it, but I think it's really powerful that someone like Mel Gibson's doing that. There's a clip of President Trump at a wrestling match a few months ago, and Mel Gibson's in the crowd, and Trump's walking along, and Mel Gibson just salutes him in front of everybody. And it's like, so Mel Gibson knows what's going on, and he's obviously been very vocal in the past about things. And talking to I mentioned this before, but people that don't know, do you remember when Google changed the name of their browser to Chrome? That's
Symbolism.
what they're saying, and they have to tell you in plain sight, and they're taking the piss out of people. And when you
Symbolism
know
will
what
be
they're
their
doing from,
downfall.
it's horrendous. Go on, Mark.
Symbolism will be their downfall.
Exactly. Symbolism will be their downfall. Yeah. Yeah. There's a thing in New York, in New York, in Manhattan, it's in the underground. There's an actually piece of modern art. Early on in lockdown, Central Park, you had the Mercy ship. People like Jenna Jameson, the porn star, she was speaking, and there was a tent in Central Park, and a lot of people said that that's where they were doing some of the rescues. But if that's true, Central Park is 119, which is also a redemption as well. So the two things are these numbers. The bad ones they know the power of the numbers, hence they marry up to the good ones. Mary Magdalene's 119, but they've been doing it in plain sight for so long. Like Mark says, it's symbolism that will bring them down. But yeah, Matt, about Mel Gibson, I think that's incredible. Mel Gibson. So this is interesting. Mel Gibson's 96, which is Spaceship, which is Norway, and that's where Rickie had his first revelation of the spaceships. And me and Rickie share almost the same birthday, February 15th, mine February 16th. So we're kind of like soul twins next to each other on the dates of birth. But February is 96 as well, which is Spaceship, which is Atlantis, which is Norway, which is Mel Gibson. So it's a good question. I think I'd be excited to see what that is. I think that's, for it to be, is it on Netflix, you say? Is it a 4-part series on Netflix?
I don't know where it's coming out on. It didn't say that.
Okay. Regardless of where it's going to be, though, I mean, that's really powerful. So that's the thing. It's like that's why we keep saying it, but it's so powerful for boys like you and Rickie to come out, because you've got a public profile. Then the people will believe it. That's what people can't do. We're going into a quantum leap realm, but people need to take step by step by step. It's too much for most people to do a quantum leap. There's going to be that point, but they need a step. They need comfort. They need reassurance. They need familiarity. So when people like Mel Gibson, Jim Caviezel, you, Matt, you, Rickie, other people coming out that are in the public eye, that is so powerful, because then they're like, well, he's saying it, she's saying, Roseanne, it's like, she's saying it, he's saying it. Then that gives them permission to look and venture into it. And they're like, fuck, this is really scary. But these people I know, these people that I've enjoyed their entertainment, these people I trust, these people I feel a connection with, that's when it's safe for them to proceed into the dark, That's why it's so powerful what you guys are doing,
Cool.
All right, boys. Well, I think it's been a great show. Any concluding thoughts or questions before we wrap up?
I've absolutely loved it. I've absolutely loved it. Especially speaking to Mark and meeting Mark. I think it's been fascinating. So, no, I think, like I said, I think it's very important that we do start speaking up. I know that there's a lot of people who are in the public eye who do think like us and are choosing not to speak up. My message to them is, if we don't succeed, if we don't prosper and we don't turn these people over, can you imagine the future that your kids are going to live in? Can you imagine the future that you're going to live in? So imagine the consequences of you speaking up, which you will have consequences, but imagine the consequences if you don't speak up. Please understand the consequences if you don't speak up. That's what I would like to say.
Here, Rick. Well said, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Rickie. It's great to meet you too. And I 100% agree with you. This is it. This is what we came here for. That's the exciting part of it. And, can you, I often relate this to tight shoes, right? If you put on a pair of shoes too tightly, then they feel amazing when you take them off. But the only reason they feel amazing when you take them off is because you put them on tightly in the first place. So we're in this situation now where we're going to stand in our power for the first time ever, and we're going to ascend beyond this. And if we're not, we're going to die. And that's actually quite beautiful in and of itself. And my key understanding is that we are eternal spirits. Death is an illusion. That's the fear of death is the thing that's kept us in this bloody trap all this time, because we've not remembered that. So everybody watching this needs to work on themselves, remember who you really are, connect to God, meditate, do all the things that I've said on the Twitter video yesterday, and keep an open mind, because we're here for you as well. Especially if you got duped and you fell for it and you got the thing and everything. We're still here for you. And I believe in miracles, and I believe in God, and I know that I believe in us, I believe in the human race. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my message would always be, don't let the television scare you. Try and watch as little of it as possible, quite frankly. And remember that we are the many and they are the few, and we will win. And I am absolutely 100% certain about that.
Exactly, buddy. A man that won many close football matches at the death and never got relegated, Matt Tissier knows. He knows what it's like to go to the wire and then manifest victory at the end. So I agree with that, boys. And just a nice little piece of the numbers finishing off. So Matt Tissier, 170. Had Mark Attwood, 141. Had Tom Bushnell, 141. Had Rickie Lambert, 126. Comes to 578. That's a large number, so I always like to take off 369 because they're the Tesla numbers. So you take off 369. That leaves you with 209. And Matt, am I right in thinking, didn't you score 209 goals in your career?
I certainly did. Well, actually, it was 210. One of them got taken off me by the dodgy goals panel.
I knew it. Never.
And then if you do that, so we talked about JFK and we talked about code, and we also talked about your number 27, Rickie. So that leaves you with flux capacitor 182 plus 27, which is JFK, which is code, takes you to 209. 209 actually is also James Patrick Caviezel, who Jim Caviezel, the actor that played Jesus, and he's in the Tim Ballard movie, The Sound of Freedom. And also that comes to Arcturian Council code, or JFK Arcturian Council. And I said at the beginning, I think all you boys are all part of this. So anyway, God bless you both. Rickie, I love you, buddy. Matt, I love you, buddy. And Mark, I also love you, but you've just left. But you know that anyway. So, all right, boys. Thanks a lot. Oh, how can people find you? How can people find you, Rick? You're on Instagram, yeah? How can people find you?
I'm on Instagram.
What's your handle called?
God, Lambo07, but it's a 4 for the A. But if you just look up Rickie Lambert, my name will come up with the blue tick.
And then you, Matt, on Twitter and on Getter, yeah?
Yeah, both same handle on Getter and Twitter at MattLetiss7.
Okay, awesome. I think this is going to get on my locals, but I'm going to put it out on Rumble as well, because I know we won't survive on YouTube with this particular show. I'm just going to put them out simultaneously so everyone can watch them. But everyone that's watching, do share it, like Mark said, because this is an important message. This is the crux. This is the pinnacle. This is when we need to stand up together. So, all right, boys. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Rickie. God bless. Cheers, boys.
I am going to join Twitter as well, so I'm going to join Twitter. So, Matt, look out for me. Tom, look out for me.
Good. All right, Rickie. Yeah, we'll send that around and get everyone following you. And I don't know if it's possible what your schedule's like, but there's that Magna Carta event on next week, 15th of June. I don't know if it's possible for either of you guys, but if it is, come down.
I'll have a look and let you know, mate.
I will let I know as well, Tom.
Thanks, Rick. Cheers, Matt. Cheers, boys.
Rick.
Take care. Cheers, bye. Bye.